A few of the book crushes I enjoy are from like YA books, but that felt like really not okay to like crush on like a younger, no, stop. But I've heard, oh, I'm such an idiot. The description's on the back. Oh, that really sounds jerky. And I'm not gonna lie, what I found is like a lot of the characters I like are definitely dark and messed up, which doesn't mean I can't share an umbrella with them. Totally here for it. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome or welcome back to Chapter and Converse. So today we're gonna do another book tag video, and I had such a fun time doing the book list, backlist, like recommendations TBR video, because those prompts forced me to pull some books off my shelf that I haven't thought about in a while, because obviously I was trying to build a TBR of backlist books that I hadn't read, and I wound up, no surprise, falling in love with so many of the books that I read. And I say so many of the books, like there were 3, but still it was so much fun to pull them. And then I still have, because I'm keeping them here on purpose, the books that I had in my TBR that I haven't read yet, because I'm interested in reading them and I want to kind of keep them at the forefront and like slip them in where I can. But all that to say, I thought it would be fun to do another tag video because I was trying to, again, kind of pull some recommendations for you guys that maybe I don't talk about as much, and also pull some books where it works in this tag video of books that I want to read. So that was a long way into it. But this is the April Showers book tag. So I fully just did like a Google search of BookTube book tags to try and find something. So this one is a little bit on the older side. And it was originally created by Sabrina on the book review and Alexis from Mad for Book Love. So the links I found linked to websites, and it doesn't look like either of them are updating their sites anymore, but either way, that's how I found it. And I just wanted to go through the prompts, talk about some of the books, and let's get into the tag. So the first prompt is a book that has water on the cover. So the first book I have is one I haven't talked about since early days of BookTube, and this is All These Beautiful Strangers by Elizabeth Clayfoth. So I read this book way back in 2018, 19, something like that, and I absolutely loved it. I was obsessed with it at the time. I don't feel like I hear enough people talk about this book, and I feel like that's sad because it's really, really good. And what got me in this book was that it was set at boarding school. There was like some secret society to it, and I was like, I'm totally in. But this book is so much more than that in like all the best ways, in that it's not a straight up YA book. It is multiple timelines, and we get the parents, we get the past, we get the present, and it all kind of coming together. And as I pulled this book off my shelf, I was like, I 1000% need to reread this because, again, obsessed at the time, and it's been a while. So in this book, our main character is Charlie Calloway, and she's rich. She's at the elite boarding school. Everyone thinks her life is completely perfect. But 10 years ago, her mom disappeared. So she just sort of walked out of their life. No one knows what happened to her, and it's obviously been a mystery that has weighed on Charlie. So in present day, she's at this boarding school, and she gets invited to the secret society, and it's where her dad went to school, and all of a sudden all these secrets start to come together, and she's starting to figure out things about her family that she never knew. But what I loved about this book, other than the actual story itself and Charlie as a main character who's amazing, is we get the present day, we get 10 years ago when her mom disappeared, and then we get all the way back in time when her parents originally met. So we get the whole history of them and their relationship, and I just loved it. I didn't know any of this going into it, and it really just blew me away, and I thought it was terrific. So again, highly recommend. And this is, she's swimming, so I don't know if you can tell on camera, but there's water on the cover, which is the whole point, obviously. And then the second book I pulled, which is one that I want to read, is How to Kill Your Best Friend by Lexi Elliott. So this book was actually gifted to me by Dawn. So thank you again so much, Dawn. And I got this last year and I haven't read it yet. So she actually sent this to me for my birthday in October. And I'm a big fan of Lexi Elliott. So I read The French Girl, and I say it like I read all her books. I read The French Girl, I have The Missing Years. But the title alone of this, I was like, yep, I'm in. Sounds like dark and messed up people doing dark and messed up things. Who doesn't want to kill their best friend every once in a while? So the inside of this says, if you suspected your best friend, the person you were closest to in the whole world, was a murderer, what would you do? Would you confront her? Would you help keep her secret? Or would you begin to feel afraid? Most importantly, why don't you feel safe now that she's dead? So it's a secret, suspense, deadly twists. Three best friends who have been inseparable since they were on the college swim team together. Water, water, water. And I just love it. I love these friendships. I love, obviously, something went down where one of them is, she's dead. I don't know if one of them killed them or killed her. I don't even know, but big fan. Water on the cover, moving it up on the TBR. I feel like I need to make, I know I need to make an entire pile of books that I need to get in my face to make sure I'm reading them. Number 2 is a classic to curl up with on the couch on a rainy day. So I would say, as a recommendation, I would say Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I read this last year as one of my 5-star predictions, and I loved it. I had managed to stay completely spoiled for this book, or spoil-free for this book. I was never spoiled for this book, but I had heard so many references to it, and it is just so well done. It's gothic and dark and mysterious, and it was one of those books where if someone had handed it to me and I'd never heard of it before, and I'd been living in a bubble, and I didn't know that it came out in the 30s, I would have guessed that this was a much more modern book, because it feels just so, not familiar like in a bad way, but like very cutting edge for its time, but like something you would pick up and read today. So this is about a woman whose name we never learn, and she winds up meeting the very rich and the very mysterious Max de Winter, and his wife Rebecca has passed away, and our main character and Max wind up meeting, sweeps her off her feet, brings her back to his family home Mandalay, and they get married, and she is always living in the shadow of his first wife Rebecca. And it is creepy, and it's gothic, and it's dark, and it's twisted, and I love it so much, and I highly recommend it. And you will see, at least in my case, so many references and homages to it and things I've read in the years that now I'm like, oh, I completely get that, or now I'm in on it and I understand what it's all about. But it's a classic. It's definitely like a must read, especially I feel like for psychological thriller fans. It's great. And then a book that I would like to curl up on the couch with, I'm considering this a classic, is The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. It's like up high on the shelf, but I've seen the movie and I definitely want to read the book. I bought it a few years ago. I haven't read it yet. I did read Strangers on a Train, which is another one where there's so many Kind Worth Killing books and TV shows and movies that have that same feeling of the Kind Worth Killing, or sort of take that idea and like launch it in a different direction. So Ripley is another one of those books where I feel like the Tom Ripley character inspires so many other characters and inspires so many authors. And I think the movie is tremendously well done. And what I would love to do now is read the book and then rewatch the movie and then see if there's any differences or see where they are and just sort of see how it's translated. But brilliant, brilliant movie. I'm gonna just stake my claim on the fact that Patricia Highsmith wrote a completely brilliant book, because I think she's a brilliant author, and Ripley is my TBR curl up classic. The next prompt is a scary book to read during a rainstorm. So I'm going to recommend, even though rain is not a factor in this book, Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, because this is a haunted house, creepy, again, atmospheric, a little bit gothic kind of a vibe to it, and I just love it. I just absolutely love it. So in this one, it's another one of those things that I absolutely love, which is a book within a book. And in this book, and then the book within the book. So in this book, we get a woman named Maggie. She is a house renovator, and her father has just passed away, and he has left her this house, Bainbury Hall, where she lived with her family for like 3 weeks, way back in the day when she was a kid. And they wound up leaving the house because it was haunted and never went back. And she didn't even realize that her dad still owned the house. So on top of that, her father had written a nonfiction book called The House of Horrors, which is very Amityville horror-ish. And it became a bestseller and became legendary. But Maggie never believed that the book her dad wrote was true, and that the house was ever haunted, and that any of those things ever happened. But sure enough, she's back at the house because she's gonna fix it up so she can flip it and get rid of it, and super, super weird things start happening. And she begins to question everything. So we get Maggie's story in the present day, and then we get the book House of Horrors interwoven with it. And it's just so well done. Brilliant, brilliant. There were definitely some super creepy moments in this. I compulsively read this book and I just loved it so much. And then in a similar but different vein of a book that I want to read is The Weight of Lies by Emily Carpenter. So this is my TBR book. And in this one, it's not quite a book within a book, but we have another author family drama kind of a thing going on in this one. So we have a woman named Meg Ashley, and it says she leads a life of privilege thanks to the best-selling horror novel her mother wrote decades ago. See what I'm doing here, right? So it says, but Meg knows that the glow of their very public life hides a darker reality of lies, manipulation, and the heartbreak of her own solitary childhood. Desperate to break free of her mother, Meg accepts a proposal to write a scandalous tell-all memoir. So it says, digging into the past and her mother's cult classic draws Meg to Bonny Island. So there she meets an unusual woman who is said to be the inspiration for the book. At first, island life seems idyllic, like doesn't it always? But as Meg starts to ask tough questions, disturbing revelations come to light, including some about her mother. And soon Meg's search leads her to question the facts of a decades-old murder. She's been warned to leave it alone, but as the lies pile up, Meg knows she's getting closer to finding a murderer. When her own life is threatened, Meg realizes the darkness found in her mother's book is nothing compared to the chilling truth that lurks off the page. So I love the idea of, again, sort of not quite a book within a book, but we've got the parent who wrote the famous book, and then we've got the kid looking into it all as an adult, and it just sounds terrific. So curling up with this one. Sounds scary. So the next prompt is to pick books with blue on the cover, or a book with blue on the cover, and I obviously could have picked like a ton. You can see my blue books like over my shelf shoulder there behind me. But I wound up picking up Ebby Drake Starts Over by Linda Holmes. So I read this book a few years ago. Taylor Jenkins Reid had recommended it like in one of her newsletters. I don't know if you guys subscribe to her newsletter, but she always makes some recommendations there and on her Instagram and everything. And basically I'll do whatever she tells me to do. But this reminded me very much of sort of her earlier works as well. And I just absolutely loved this book. So Evie is a woman who's feeling a little bit lost, and she has just recently lost her husband as well. So it says, everyone in town, even her best friend Andy, thinks grief keeps her locked up inside, and Evie doesn't correct them because her husband died in a car crash and she's kind of okay with it, which she's not admitting to people. And then meanwhile in New York City, we have a guy named Dean who is a former major league pitcher and is Andy's childhood best friend. Andy is Evie's current best friend. And he is suffering from a case of the yips, which is just sort of like a sports terminology curse, just can't get it together. He's a pitcher, he can't pitch to save his life. He's in a slump, he needs to get out of town. So he winds up coming up to Maine, where the book is set, and he winds up renting sort of the back house at Evie's house. She has a main house, there's a back house, he winds up renting it. So Andy thinks like it'll be good for her to have some company, and it's a good way for Dean to get out of town and be like very under the radar because he's a very famous New York Yankee. And as you can guess, a friendship blooms between them. And one of the things that's great is like Dean doesn't want to talk about baseball and Evie doesn't want to talk about her husband. So they wind up forming this relationship, and they're both dealing with things and they're both in denial about things. And I just loved this book. I cried when I read this book. I was cheering when I read this book. I just loved it so much. And I thought it was so well done. And like it was funny, and it's like dog-eared to the high heavens, which I feel like you guys can't always tell on camera, but I just thought it was brilliant. So absolutely loved this book. And then the book I picked up for myself to prop up to the top of my list is Watching You by Lisa Jewell. So flashing back to Booklist Backlist, I read The Family Upstairs, which had been collecting dust on my shelf, shamefully, and obsessed, just absolutely obsessed. I've been a Lisa Jewell fan since the Ralph's Party days. I've said it so many times. And I was reading The Family Upstairs, and I don't know how far I was into it, like not far at all. And I was just like, why have I not been picking up her books like clockwork? Because I've been buying them like clockwork. I legit have all of them, and I haven't been reading them. So read it, loved it, obsessed. And Watching You is one of her books that I've heard so many people talk about as well. So we're prioritizing it. by pulling it out for this video. So in this one, oh dang it doesn't have a blurb. It just has quotes on the front cover. That's kind of challenging when you're trying to talk about a book you don't know much about. So I know that this is going to be multiple points of view. I don't know if it's multiple timelines. She always has multiple points of view, and I love how she brings them all together. But this one says we've got the inhabitants of Melville Village. So it looks like we have 4 different families, and the opening thing says my diary, dated 1996. It says, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to feel. Is this normal? He's an adult. He's twice my age. There's no way. No, there's no way. But oh God, I wish I was there. Dear diary, I think I'm in love with my English teacher. So I feel like this is multiple families that live in this little community, and it's people watching each other. I don't know if it's like Rear Window vibes. I'm guessing maybe somebody dies, because I feel like Lisa Jewell likes to kill people in her more mysterious books that she's got going on. But I've heard, oh, I'm such an idiot. The description's on the back. I feel like I'm so trained that like the back of a book is the quotes and the inside flap is the description. This was a UK edition, which I don't know if that means anything different. The back has the description on it. Oh, geez, you guys. Okay, here we go. Let me not speculate and tell you what it's actually about. So it says, you're not the only one watching. You're back home with a brand new husband in tow after 4 years working abroad. You're keen to find a place of your own, but for now you're living with your big brother camped out in his spare bedroom. And then, quite unexpectedly, you meet the man next door. He's the head teacher at the local high school. He's twice your age, and he's very attractive. Soon you find you're watching him all the time. But what you don't know is that someone is watching you. Or that what started as an innocent crush is quickly turning into an obsession as dark as it is deadly. Family secrets, illicit passion, and an unexplained murder lie at the heart of Lisa Jewell's gripping new novel. So, yes, there's murder. Yes, there's people watching each other. Yes, there's Rear Window vibes to it. And here we go. So that's Watching You by Lisa Jewell. I should have just paid closer attention. The upside is a lot of people think it's amazing on the inside too. So there you go. The next prompt is 2 characters that you want to spend a rainy day with. So I'm going to pick Finley and Vero from the Finley Donovan series. I love these ladies. I feel like they would be so fun to hang out with. I feel like they would be very cool friends. I am here for I was gonna say Laverne and Shirley, the Lucy and Ethel hijinks of it all, the Dead to Me, Christina Applegate, Linda Cardellini of it all. And I'm there for the wine. I'm there for accidentally getting mistaken for a hit woman and getting yourself into a whole hot mess of trouble. But I just love these ladies so much. So this is book number 2. I didn't pick it because it's blue. I picked it because it was handy, but I do have Finley Donovan is killing it. You're not gonna be able to see right behind me in the chair. This book series is so much fun. There's already a 3rd book coming out. If you guys are not reading it, I think it's just so delightful. It's, again, it's like, it's cozy, but there's a dark snark humor to it all. And these ladies are just such cool friends, and I would totally be down for them. I would 3rd wheel their friendship if they would let me. The next prompt is a good book recommendation for a rainy day. And I feel like this is sort of like similar to the scary book, but different. But of course I'm gonna pick 2 thrillers for you guys. So the first one that I am recommending is The Drowning Kind by Jennifer McMahon. And this has sort of that water aquatic theme to it all. Aquatic, water theme to it all. So this was the first Jennifer McMahon book that I read, and I really loved it. So it's definitely creepy, ghosty vibes. Like I feel like pounding rain, dark day, curl up on the couch, can read it in one day kind of a book. And you get dual timelines in this one. But in this we have, when it opens, so it says, be careful what you wish for. And our main character, Jax, has multiple missed calls from her sister, Lexi. And her and Lexi have a very challenging relationship to begin with. And Jax just ignores the calls, never calls her back, and then finds out the next day that her sister has drowned in the pool behind her grandmother's house, which her grandmother has passed away. She inherited the house. It's where the girls spent all of their summers and grew up around it. And Jax winds up going back because her sister has died and has to deal with the funeral and the aftermath of it all. And it brings up all this stuff from the past and family secrets and this sort of very spooky, ooky pool in the backyard. And then we get another timeline, and it's also just, I hesitate to say anything because I actually watched somebody talk about this book and say things that I felt were giveaways, and it was after I had read the book, and I was kind of like, oof, I wouldn't have wanted to know that going in. So just know you're in very good hands with Jennifer McMahon. It's sufficiently creepy, it's very atmospheric, and again, I feel like you could read it in one day. Gripped me, totally well done, loved it. And then the book that I picked out for myself as a TBR book, and I'm leaning forward to put stuff on the floor. The downside of filming in a chair is there's a lot of reaching going on today, but I picked Malice by Kigo Higashino, and this book has also been collecting dust, but this is another one that involves writers, so I just love this so much. And this says, a best-selling novelist is found brutally murdered in a locked room within his locked house. The two most likely suspects, words, his wife and his best friend, both have solid alibis, or so it seems. So we have a police detective who recognizes the writer's friend. Years ago, they were colleagues at the same public school. Kaga went on to join the police force, that's our detective, while the author left to become a full-time writer. So as our detective investigates, he uncovers evidence that the two writers were anything but friendly, and the question he must answer isn't necessarily who or how, but why. So it says it's a tale of cat and mouse. We've got the detective, and it just sounds really interesting to me. So this was, I don't even know how I came across this one. This was international bestseller, Edgar Award finalist. This was one of my many thrifted deep dives that I went on, and it just sounds like such a great book that you could just sort of like curl up, like I said, and like read it in one sitting kind of a book. And I also kind of dive for the cover, which I think is beautiful. Next prompt is a book that has rain as a setting for part of the time. I was surprised how many books either it's snow as the weather, or I just don't remember if rain was a factor. I will say I am currently reading the arc of The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, which comes out this summer, and rain is a factor in that book, but I realize that helps absolutely nobody at this point. So I'm going to, which I realize is a bit of an old standby, but I stand by, Death in the Family by Tessa Wiegert. Loved this book, love her. And this is the detectives. They wind up responding to a missing persons call out on a fancy island inhabited by a fancy family. And the adult grandson is missing. There is blood in his bed. They get out there to investigate. A nor'easter blows in. They wind up getting stranded, and they are stuck alone on the island with a possible murderer and a really kind of wacky, crazy, dark and messed up family. And I'm 1000% here for it. So rain 100% plays a factor on this book. The next prompt is a book that you would use as an umbrella. I think this is supposed to mean like a book you don't care gets wet or ruined, rather than like a book that's big that maybe would cover you. I'm not sure. So I don't like really want to speak ill of books. My like old standby always is, I just never really enjoyed like Faulkner. I don't know why I have such vivid memories of having to read, I've talked about this before, The Wild Palms back in college, and I hated it. And I really just, I think I just struggled with it, and I probably didn't understand it, and I just never ever enjoyed it. So I guess I would not feel really terrible. I don't have any of his books, but if I did, if maybe some of them got wet or ruined, I don't know. I don't really totally understand what that prompt is. But the next prompt is a character that you would like to share an umbrella with. So I had to go through a lot of my book crushes, and there have been a lot. And I was trying to figure out like just who to choose. So one person I did think of was Hud from Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I just really liked him. I really liked him. But when I started thinking about a book that really kind of got me excited, like for the relationships in it, I wound up picking Shiver by Ali Reynolds, because this book has a romantic element that I didn't know was in the book. And normally I don't enjoy that in a thriller, but in this book, I loved it and it completely worked for me. So there's multiple characters in this book, and I will admit I couldn't pick between Curtis and Brent. His name's Brent, right? I'm saying it like I'm so confident that I would not be able to pick between these two guys, and I'm like, wait, his name is really Brent, right? Not Brett? Oh, please. Yes, it's Brent. I know, I knew it. I got it right the first time. But anyway, if either of those guys would like to hang out under an umbrella with me, or perhaps, you know, all three of us could hang out under an umbrella, I'd be totally cool with it. But yeah, Curtis or Brent or HUD, you know, I'm here for it. So totally here for it. And then the last prompt is a book that has a dry beginning but an amazing ending. And I feel like I have gotten better about DNFing books. And if the beginning is dry and not working for me, I'm not sticking with it. And I do feel like there's books where it's like too much of a giveaway, because it's like I'm thinking about specific thrillers where I was like, oh, it feels like this, or oh, I'm not sure about that, but like an ending blew me away, or there was like a twist in it, and I don't want to be like, this book had the best ending ever, or like this book had the best twist ever, because I feel like it's just more than you guys maybe want to know going into it. So I hate to do like hard pass, but I'm just gonna hard pass on this one, because I feel like if it's dry and just not working for me, I will either soft or hard DNF it. So I couldn't tell you if it wound up having an amazing ending. So that's gonna do it for the April Showers book prompt, book tag, book recommendations stuff video. But let me know if you guys like these kinds of videos. I can't believe how many tags there are out there. I saw so many other ones where I was like, oof, I'm definitely gonna be doing more of these because I think it's fun, but there was like a 90s movies one, and there was like a bedtime book tag, and like all these different ones. And again, part of what I find fun are the prompts, because it helps me think of books that I normally am not just, sometimes I feel like I'm just talking about the same books over and over again, which I just don't want to do. But again, also like it's forcing me to rethink what I'm gonna pick up next and to push some other books to the front of my list. So anyway, all that to say, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you are having great days. Thank you guys for hanging out. You can tell I haven't filmed in a while, but I appreciate you spending some of your day with me as always, and I will see you guys in another video. So until then, take care everybody. Bye.